The 2 train reeked of stale beer and wet denim. I gripped the pole, staring at the text Victoria sent at 2:17 a.m. Don't wait up. Brad's arraignment was rough. He needs emotional support. You understand, right? I understood. All right. I understood that my wife was holding another man while I was sleeping on the left side of our king-size bed. I understood that emotional support was Victoria speak for letting Brad Whitmore, her smug, bankrupt ex-husband, cry into her Valentino blouse. My stop, Chambers Street, came up. I squeezed through the crowd, dodging a guy eating a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. The courthouse was already swarming. I wasn't here to argue a case. I was here because Brad claimed I clipped his Porsche 911 on Canal Street last Tuesday. Total bullshit. I drive a 10-year-old Corolla. He drives a car worth more than my library's annual budget. I found the right courtroom. Victoria was already there, talking to Brad. She looked like a goddamn power suit ad. Charcoal gray Armani, hair slicked back. Brad looked like he'd just stepped out of a GQ shoot. Despite facing 3 counts of securities fraud, she saw me, didn't smile, didn't wave, just turned to the court officer. Mr. Carter is with me. Judge Ramirez looked bored. Ms. Hayes, you're representing the plaintiff? Yes, Your Honor, Victoria said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. My client, Mr. Whitmore, suffered significant structural damage to his vehicle. Mr. Carter here fled the scene to avoid financial responsibility. Given Mr. Carter's limited assets, we request a steep bond be set to ensure he doesn't flee. Limited assets. I bit the inside of my cheek. I didn't flee. I said, keeping my voice steady. I left a note with my insurance details. Your client threw it away. Victoria whipped around, her eyes flashing with warning. Liam, don't. Just accept the plea deal we discussed. You can pay the fine in installments. Don't make a scene. Brad leaned over, whispering loud enough for me to hear. Yeah, Liam, stick to checking out books. Leave the lawyering to the pros. I looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to present the dash cam footage from the city bus behind me. Victoria stepped in front of me, literally put her hand on my chest to push me back. Your Honor, my husband is a librarian. He doesn't understand the legal process. I advise him to remain silent. Ms. Hayes, Judge Ramirez sighed. Step aside. Let the man speak. I pulled out my phone. The footage was clear. Brad's Porsche was parked illegally, sticking out into the bike lane. I tapped it gently with my Corolla while trying to avoid a cyclist. No damage. 0. Brad's face went red. Victoria's went white. She recovered fast. Your Honor, this footage could be altered. I moved to dismiss it. You moved to dismiss evidence that clears your husband because it contradicts your other client? The judge asked, raising an eyebrow. He's not a client. Your Honor, Victoria said quickly. He's my spouse. I'm simply trying to expedite this so Mr. Whitmore can focus on his more pressing legal matters. Translation. She didn't want Brad's fraud case delayed by a minor traffic dispute. She was protecting Brad, throwing me under the bus to keep her ex happy. The judge dismissed the case against me with prejudice. As we walked out, Victoria grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Are you insane? Do you know how much trouble you just caused me with Brad? I shook her off. You're my wife, Victoria. You defended him over me. It's strategy. Liam, Brad's about to get indicted by the SEC. He needs stability. If you'd just taken a slap on the wrist, we'd be done by now. Strategy. I repeated. Right? She checked her Rolex. I have to meet Brad for lunch at Le Bernardin. He stressed. Don't wait up again. And seriously, take the subway home. I need the car for client relations. She didn't even wait for a response. Just clicked away in her stilettos, pulling out her phone to probably text Brad an apology for my behavior. I walked. It was a long walk to Midtown, but I needed the air. When I got to her office at Whitmore Associates, yeah, the firm named after her ex, her paralegal, Jess, was at the front desk. Jess hated me. I was a charity case that Victoria married. Victoria here? I asked, holding a brown bag with a turkey club I bought with my last 20 bucks. Jess didn't look up from her screen. Ms. Hayes is at lunch with Mr. Whitmore. She said if you showed up, tell you to take the subway back to the Bronx or wherever you crawled out of. She needs the car for important people. I dropped the bag on her desk. Tell her I'm not hungry. Back at our penthouse in Tribeca, the place felt colder than usual. I checked our joint account on my laptop. $50,000. Gone. Transferred to an account labeled B, W, Legal Defense. Victoria walked in an hour later, kicking off her shoes. She didn't ask about my day. She poured herself a glass of Macallan 18, the expensive stuff I wasn't allowed to touch. Saw the transfer. I said, leaning against the kitchen island. She took a sip, not looking at me. Oh, Liam, I meant to tell you. Brad's legal fees are astronomical. His assets are frozen by the feds. I moved some funds to help him out. It's just temporary. Don't be petty. It's my money too. Technically. I echoed. You use our savings to bail out the guy you defended against me today. He's struggling, and you cost me leverage in his fraud case today. Liam, do you have any idea what I'm trying to build here? I'm up for partner. Brad promised me a spot at his new firm once this blows over. If you just played along, I'd be signing the papers next week. What's it here? She was so busy counting Brad's wins that she missed the fact she was losing her own game. So, my humiliation is the price of your partnership? Don't be so dramatic. It's business. She waved a hand dismissively. Go catalog some books or something. Make yourself useful. I left, went to my real sanctuary, the New York Public Library on 42nd Street. While everyone else saw a broke librarian, I saw a man with a key. I went to the rare manuscripts division. In a locked drawer I hadn't opened in 3 years, I pulled out a matte black USB drive. It had no markings, no brand, just a small engraving, Carter Global Restricted. I plugged it into an air-gap terminal. Folders popped up. Project, Whitmore, offshore accounts, SEC correspondence, wire transfers. I scrolled through Brad's financial history. It was a mess of lies, insider trading, and money laundering. And there, buried in the metadata, were emails between Brad and Victoria. Emails discussing how to hide assets during his divorce from her 2 years ago. Emails discussing how to manipulate witnesses in his current SEC case. One email stood out, from Victoria to Brad, dated last week. Don't worry about Liam. He's harmless. I'll handle the traffic thing. Once you're clear, we'll move the rest of the Caymans. Harmless? I smiled. A real, cold smile. I picked up the secure satellite phone I kept in the drawer, the one Victoria didn't know existed. I dialed a number I hadn't called since the day I walked away from the family business. 3 rings. Then a crisp, authoritative voice answered. Liam, it's been a while. Grandmother, I said, watching the cursor blink on the screen. I'm ready to come home. Eleanor Carter didn't hesitate. About time. Your grandfather's estate has been gathering dust. The jet will be at Teterboro at 0900 tomorrow. Don't wear those dreadful thrift store sweaters to the board meeting. I'll pack light. I said. I hung up. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. It was a photo of her and Brad at Le Bernardin, clinking champagne flutes. Caption, Real men provide. Real men protect. Maybe you should read more books about success. Liam, face blowing a kiss. I stared at the emoji. Then I looked at the screen showing Brad's offshore accounts. I started typing an anonymous email to the SEC tip line. I attached 3 files, the ones proving Brad's insider trading and Victoria's obstruction of justice. Before hitting send, I paused. I texted Victoria back. Just one word. Read. Then I hit send on the email. The screen refreshed. Message sent. I leaned back in the chair. The leather creaking. The library was quiet. Too quiet. Somewhere in the city, Victoria was laughing with Brad. Somewhere in the city, a federal investigator was opening my email. I pulled out Victoria's credit card, the one I borrowed from her wallet earlier. I maxed it out online. buying a single share of Carter Global stock under a pseudonym, just enough to trigger a fraud alert on her account. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Carter? A professional female voice asked. This is Agent Miller. SEC. We receive your correspondence. We'd like to verify some details regarding Mr. Whitmore's trading activity. I smiled. Of course. I have extensive documentation. When would you like to meet? How about now? We're about to pick up Mr. Whitmore for questioning. Make it 8 a.m. I said, I'll bring the coffee. Black. No sugar. Like my patience for betrayal. I hung up. Victoria texted again. Why is my card being declined? Liam, answer me. I didn't reply. Instead, I drafted a second email. This one to the New York State Bar Association. Subject, Attorney Misconduct, Victoria Hayes. I attached the email chain between her and Brad. Then, I stood up. I walked out of the library, past the security guards who usually ignored me. I hailed a cab, a real yellow one, not the subway. Where to? The driver asked. Teterboro Airport. I said, and step on it. I have a plane to catch and a legacy to reclaim. The cab merged into traffic. I looked back at the skyline. Somewhere in that maze of steel and glass, Victoria was realizing her card didn't work. Somewhere, Brad was hearing a knock on his door. I leaned forward. Driver, turn on the radio. Let's see if the news is breaking yet. He flipped it on. A breaking news alert crackled through the speakers. Federal agents have arrested Wall Street trader Brad Whitmore on charges of insider trading. Sources say the investigation was triggered by an anonymous tip involving a massive paper trail. I closed my eyes. Finally, the silence was broken. The game had just begun, and Victoria didn't even know she'd already lost. The cab hit a pothole, jolting me. I opened my eyes, watching the city blur past. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Probably Victoria using Brad's phone now. Liam, what have you done? Brad's been arrested. The FBI is at the door. Call me now. I blocked the number. Then I unblocked it. Just a reply with a screenshot of the SEC arrest warrant. Caption, real men don't get arrested. Victoria. They pulled the trigger. I hit send. The cab turned onto the West Side Highway. The Hudson River stretched out, gray and vast. I thought about the USB drive in my pocket, the one with the Carter Global restricted label. It wasn't just Brad's downfall on there. It was Victoria's entire career, neatly documented. Every lie, every bribe, every backroom deal she'd made to climb the ladder. I thought about the prenup she'd made me sign, the one where she'd laughed and said, "It's just a formality. Liam, you have nothing to lose." I wondered if she remembered that clause about infidelity. Probably not. She'd been too busy celebrating her victory over my lack of assets. The cab pulled up to a private entrance at Teterboro. A Gulfstream G650 sat on the tarmac, engines humming. A uniformed attendant opened the door. Mr. Carter? Mrs. Carter's jet is ready. I stepped out, adjusting my thrift store sweater. Not Mrs. Carter's jet. I corrected. Mine. Tell the pilot to file a flight plan for Geneva. I have a meeting with the board of directors. And tell grandmother I'll be needing a new wardrobe. Armani, I think. Something that matches the view from the top. I climbed the steps. Inside, the cabin was silent except for the hum of the engines. I sank into a leather seat, pulling out my phone one last time. Victoria had left 17 voicemails. I deleted them all without listening. Then I opened a banking app. Our joint account was still empty, but my personal account, the one Victoria didn't know about, the one linked to the Carter Global Trust Fund, showed a balance that made the 50 grand she'd stolen look like pocket change. I ordered a scotch from the attendant. Neat, just like Victoria liked hers. But this one was on me, on my plane, headed to my office. I looked out the window as we taxied. New York shrank below us, a grid of lights and shadows. Victoria was down there somewhere, probably screaming at her phone, at Brad, at the universe. She'd spent 3 years looking down on me, seeing a librarian. She'd never bothered to look closer. Never wondered why I always paid cash. Why I never asked for a raise. Why I seemed so calm when she spent our savings on her ex-husband. She wanted a storybook ending. She'd gotten a prologue to her worst nightmare. The plane lifted off. I took a sip of the scotch. It burned going down, a familiar heat. I thought about the file I'd sent to the SEC, the one that would bury Brad, and the one I'd kept for Victoria, the one detailing her own little transactions with Brad's offshore accounts. The Bar Association was going to have a field day with that. I leaned back, closing my eyes. The last thing I heard before sleep took me was the pilot's voice over the intercom. Good evening. Mr. Carter, we're at cruising altitude. Estimated time to Geneva, 7 hours. 7 hours. Plenty of time to plan the next move. Plenty of time for Victoria to realize that the harmless librarian she'd married was the one person she should have never, ever crossed. The plane pierced the clouds. Below, the world was dark. Above, the stars were sharp and clear. I smiled. A real one this time. Game on. Victoria, let's see how you like playing by my rules. My phone blew up at 6:03 a.m. Not the burner. My regular iPhone. The screen lit up with back-to-back texts from a number I blocked last night. Victoria, pick up the phone. Liam, this isn't funny. Brad is on the news. The FBI is at his door. I swiped him away and poured a black coffee from the thermos the flight attendant left. The jet was cruising over the Atlantic. 7 hours to Geneva. Plenty of time. At 7:15 a.m. New York time, my burner rang. Agent Miller from the SEC. Mr. Carter. The tip was solid. We've got Whitmore in custody. But we've hit a snag. The digital trail leads to an IP address at Whitmore Associates, your wife's firm. I stayed quiet for a beat. Sounds like a conflict of interest. Agent Miller, a massive one. We're going to need to speak with Ms. Hayes, voluntarily. At first, but if she lawyered up for him, we're looking at obstruction. Send a subpoena to her office. I said, she'll be there by 8. Pretending yesterday didn't happen. I hung up and switched to my regular phone. Victoria had left a voicemail. I played it. Her voice was shrill, cracking. Liam, where are you? Brad's lawyer says the SEC got an anonymous tip. They're saying I'm involved. Did you do this? Answer me. You son of a... I deleted it. Then I dialed the one person who'd appreciate the timing. My grandmother. Eleanor. Liam. She answered. Her tone clipped. You're airborne. Good. I've scheduled the board meeting for 4 p.m. Geneva time. We're the Tom Ford. And Liam? Clean up that wife of yours. She's making a mess on page 6. I'm handling it. Grandmother. I said, just finalize the SEC referral. The Bar Association gets their package by noon. See that you do. And Liam? No mercy. The Carters don't beg. And we certainly don't get shown up by a 2-bit ambulance chaser from a firm named after a criminal. The line went dead. I leaned back. The jet hit a pocket of turbulence. Fitting. Back in New York. Victoria was fighting through midtown traffic. I knew because I had a tracking app on her phone. Installed the day she lost her AirPods, and I helped her find them. She was screaming at a cabbie. Move it. I have a meeting at Whitmore Associates. Do you know who I am? I texted her from my regular number. Hope the coffee at Le Bernardin was worth it. SEC doesn't serve lattes in holding cells. Her reply was instant. You. It was you. I knew it. When I get my hands on you. I blocked her again. Then I unblocked her, just to send a screenshot of Brad's arrest warrant. Relax. Brad's already in. You're just the appetizer. By 8:05 a.m., Victoria stormed into the offices of Whitmore Associates. I saw it through the security cam feed I'd hacked months ago. She looked like hell, smudged mascara, wrinkled suit. Richard, the senior partner, was waiting in the lobby, not in his office. In the lobby, a bad sign. Victoria. Richard said, not offering his hand. The SEC is here. So is the FBI. They have a warrant for the server logs from last night. Specifically, 11:47 p.m. Her face drained of blood. I was here until midnight, working on the Whitmore filings. Zeit. Security logs show you left at 9:30. Your access badge was scanned at the garage exit. He paused. But the server room? That was accessed at 11:47 by someone using your credentials. I was hacked. She spat. It's Liam. He's a librarian. He knows computers. He's framing me. Richard pinched the bridge of his nose. Victoria. Please. A librarian? The man wears sweaters from Goodwill. And the logs show the access came from a terminal on the archive level, where Liam Carter works. I told you, she shrieked. He's obsessed with those old records. He's probably been planning this for months. He wants me to suffer because I chose Brad over him. Two agents in dark suits approached. Ms. Hayes, we'd like to ask you a few questions down at Federal Plaza. I'm not going anywhere without my lawyer. Victoria snapped, trying to regain some composure. You can call your lawyer from the car. The agent said, not unkindly, but you're coming with us. She was cuffed, not roughly, but firmly. The click of the metal echoed in the marble lobby. Richard didn't step in. He just turned and walked back into his office. The other associates watched. Phones out. Recording. Jess, the paralegal, was smiling. I watched the live feed on my tablet. Victoria was pushed into the back of a black SUV. She looked up at the building, at her office window, then at the camera on the SUV's dashboard. For a split second, our eyes met through the lens. I tapped the screen, ending the feed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, probably Brad's lawyer. Your wife is singing like a canary. She's blaming you for everything. Thought you'd want to know. I replied, tell her to save her breath. The only song she'll be hearing is the jail cell door slamming. I landed in Geneva at 3:30 p.m. local time. A Bentley whisked me from the private terminal to the Carter Global Headquarters, a glass tower overlooking Lake Geneva. The boardroom was already full. 12 men and women in bespoke suits. My grandmother sat at the head of the table, a monument in navy silk. I walked in. No introductions needed. I'd met most of them before I went undercover. Liam, my grandmother said, nodding toward the empty chair at the opposite end. You look like you've been sleeping in airports. Better than sleeping next to a traitor. I replied, sitting down. The CFO, a man named Harrison, cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, the SEC has frozen all Whitmore-related assets, including the $50. 000 transferred from your joint account with Ms. Hayes. We've also initiated civil forfeiture proceedings against her personal holdings. Good, I said. And the Bar Association? Received the dossier an hour ago. Harrison said, they've suspended her license pending investigation. She won't be practicing law anytime soon. Make sure they know about the perjury in the hit and run case. I added, I want that charge reinstated. Only this time, I'm not the defendant. She is. My grandmother finally spoke. Enough about the trash. Liam, we have a company to run. The global merger with Vance Industries is on the table. Sophia Vance will be joining us via video link. A screen lit up. Sophia Bennett Vance. Harvard Law. My grandmother's protege. Sharp as a tack and worth about 9 figures on her own. She looked at me, her expression neutral. Liam, you look well, despite domestic complications. Complications I'm resolving. I said, Vance Industries. I assume you reviewed the terms? I have, Sophia said. The clause about asset seizure in the event of spousal misconduct is particularly thorough. Did you draft that before or after you married Ms. Hayes? After. I admitted. I had a feeling she'd need a reminder of who she married. Sophia almost smiled. Almost. Prudent. The merger is approved, contingent on your immediate relocation to Geneva and the dissolution of your marriage. My legal team will handle the latter. We've already filed the initial paperwork in New York. How long until she's served? I asked. She's currently in FBI custody. Sophia said, they'll serve her there. Efficient, don't you think? My grandmother cut in. Sophia, the Zurich accounts? Being liquidated as we speak. Sophia confirmed. All funds traced to Brad Whitmore are being redirected to the Carter Global Victims Restitution Fund. A nice touch. Liam, victims deserve justice. I said, even if it's just financial. The meeting wrapped an hour later. Merger approved. New bylaws passed. I was officially the CEO of Carter Global. I walked out onto the balcony. The Swiss air crisp and clean. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria's jail-issued device. It was allowed one contact. Her lawyer. But I'd hacked that too. Liam, please. I'm scared. They're saying I could get 20 years. I didn't mean it. I love you. Come get me. I stared at the message. 20 years. For her. That was a lifetime of mispromotions, ruined reputations, and cold prison food. For me, it was a rounding error on a quarterly report. I typed back, love? You wouldn't know love if it paid your salary. Enjoy the view from Rikers. Victoria. It's the last one you'll see for a long time. I hit send. Then I deleted her number entirely. No point in keeping dead weight in my contacts. Sophia joined me on the balcony. She handed me a folder. Divorce decree. Signed by a judge in Geneva. Effective immediately. She gets nothing. Not even the clothes she wore into custody. She can keep the orange jumpsuit. I said, taking the folder. It matches her character. Sophia looked out at the lake. My grandmother sends her regards. She said to tell you that you've made the family proud. Though she doubts Victoria Hayes was worth the effort. She wasn't. I said, but the lesson was. Sophia turned to go, then paused. There's a charity gala tomorrow night. The Carter Foundation. You'll be expected to attend. With a date, I'll find someone. I said, I've already selected someone. Sophia said, her tone leaving no room for argument. A colleague from the UN Human Rights Council. She's suitable, unlike your last choice. I didn't argue. Sophia's suitable meant pedigree, discretion, and zero interest in my bank account. Perfect. She left. I stayed on the balcony until the sun dipped below the Alps. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert from the New York Times. Prominent defense attorney Victoria Hayes charged with obstruction. Faces decades in prison. Below the headline, a photo of Victoria being led into Federal Plaza. Her face a mask of shock and fury. I zoomed in. Behind her, barely visible, was a reflection of a shop window. In it, I could see a man in a dark coat, watching me, or rather, the man I used to be, the librarian, the patsy, the ghost she tried to erase. I closed the article, deleted the app. The ghost was gone. In his place stood the heir, the CO, the man who didn't need her, or her lies, or her fake emotional support for her felon ex-husband. I walked back inside. The boardroom was empty. My grandmother was waiting by the elevator. Come, Liam, we have a gala to prepare for, and you need a proper suit. That thrift store sweater won't do for a Carter. I followed her into the elevator. The door slid shut. Geneva disappeared behind polished steel. Grandmother, I said as we descended, what happened to Brad? She didn't look at me. He'll be convicted. The evidence you provided ensures that. He'll spend the next 30 years in Otisville, wondering how a librarian took him down. And Victoria? She'll be disbarred, convicted, and forgotten. A cautionary tale for ambitious women who marry above their station. The elevator opened to the parking garage. The Bentley was waiting. My grandmother paused, looking at me. You did well, Liam. But remember, this is just the beginning. The world is full of Victorias and Brads. Men and women who see wealth as a prize to be stolen, not built. Don't let them see the cracks in your armor again. I won't, I said. She nodded, satisfied. Good. Now, let's go buy you a tie. Something that doesn't clash with your new reality. I got into the car. As we pulled away, I looked back at the tower. Somewhere in New York, Victoria was sitting in a holding cell, staring at a concrete wall. Somewhere, Brad was counting the days until his trial. And somewhere, a new chapter was starting. One where I wasn't a victim. I was the victor. The car merged onto the autoroute. Lake Geneva blurred past. I thought about Sophia's suitable date for tomorrow. about the merger, about the life I'd left behind in that cramped apartment with a woman who traded love for a lie. My phone buzzed. A calendar alert. Gala. 8 p.m. Tuxedo required. Date. Sophia Benavance. I blinked. Sophia? I reread the alert. It was from her. She'd scheduled it herself. I looked at the seat where she'd sat earlier. Empty, but the air still felt charged. I typed a reply, looking forward to it. Though I'm surprised you're not tired of cleaning up my messes. Her response was immediate. It's not a mess. Liam, it's a correction. And I don't clean up messes. I prevent them. See you at 8. I put the phone away. The car slowed for a red light. A billboard loomed overhead, advertising Carter Global's latest initiative, Building Futures, Securing Legacies. I smiled. Victoria's future was secured. All right, in a 6x8 cell. And my legacy? It was just getting started. The light turned green. We accelerated into the Geneva twilight. Behind me, New York faded into memory. Ahead, a new world waited. One where I didn't have to pretend to be less than I was. One where the only person I had to impress was myself. And maybe, just maybe, a sharp-tongued Harvard lawyer who didn't suffer fools or traitorous wives. Gladly, the car phone rang. The driver answered, then handed me the receiver. Mr. Carter? It's Agent Miller. We got Victoria Hayes in interrogation. She's asking for you. Says she won't talk until you're here. I took the receiver. Agent Miller. Tell Ms. Hayes she can talk to the judge. Or the warden. But she's done talking to me. I hung up. The driver glanced at me in the rear view. I met his eyes in the mirror. Keep driving. I said, I'm done looking back. He nodded. The car hummed. Geneva flowed past. I closed my eyes, listening to the engine for the first time in 3 years. The silence wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. It was powerful. It was mine. I woke up in the Geneva penthouse. No alarms. No Victoria hogging the covers. Just silence and a view of the Alps. My grandmother texted at 7:02 a.m. Hair and makeup arrive at 0800. Press conference at 0900. Don't be late. I didn't bother with a robe. Walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Naked. Coffee in hand. Below, the city was waking up. My city, now. I scrolled through the U.S. news feeds on my phone. Page 6 had a field day. Disgraced lawyer Victoria Hayes denied bail. Judge calls her a flight risk. The comments section was brutal. Good riddance. Gold digger got what she deserved. Wonder who her librarian husband really is. That last one made me smirk. I typed a reply anonymously. He's not a librarian anymore. Posted it, then deleted the app. At 8:15, the doorbell rang. Not a knock, a chime. I opened it. 2 women walked in, one carrying a garment bag from Tom Ford, the other wheeling a case of grooming gear. Neither spoke. They knew the drill. I was dressed in 20 minutes. Navy suit, white shirt, burgundy tie, the power uniform. My grandmother called it. The press conference was held in the Carter Global atrium. Glass, steel, and about 50 reporters shouting questions before I even reached the podium. Cameras flashed. My grandmother stood off to the side. A small, approving nod. Sophia was there too, leaning against a pillar, arms crossed. She gave me a look, part appraisal, part warning. Don't screw this up. I tapped the mic. Feedback squealed. The room hushed. Good morning. I started, voice steady. I'm Liam Carter. As of today, I've assumed the role of Chief Executive Officer of Carter Global. My tenure begins with a necessary correction. For the past 3 years, I operated under an alias, observing the industry from a unique vantage point. During that time, I witnessed systemic failures of ethics and accountability, most notably within the firm of Whitmore Associates, and specifically through the actions of my now estranged wife, Victoria Hayes. A ripple of gasps. Someone shouted, "You're the Liam Carter? The heir?" The same. I said, "And I'm here to clarify. Victoria Hayes did not marry a librarian. She married the principal shareholder of the company that owns her former firm's building, her Mercedes, and the penthouse she's currently being evicted from, her decision to represent her ex-husband, Brad Whitmore, against me in a fabricated traffic incident was not merely spousal betrayal. It was a criminal conflict of interest, compounded by perjury and obstruction of justice. I paused, let it sink in. Victoria's name was trending. Hashtag Carter Reveal was already #1 on Twitter. Furthermore, I continued, I've instructed our legal team to dissolve all non-disclosure agreements related to the Whitmore investigation. The SEC, the FBI, and the New York State Bar Association have been provided with irrefutable evidence of Ms. Hayes' misconduct. She will face the full extent of the law. As for Brad Whitmore, his arrest yesterday was merely the opening act. We've uncovered evidence of embezzlement from the Carter Charitable Trust, tax evasion spanning 4 continents, and wire fraud exceeding $200 million. He will die in prison. A reporter near the front raised a hand. Mr. Carter, why the deception? Why pose as a librarian? To see who valued substance over spectacle. I said, Victoria Hayes valued the spectacle of a wealthy ex-husband and the illusion of her own ambition. She mistook my humility for weakness. She won't make that mistake again. Another reporter, what about the $50? 000 she transferred from your joint account? Already recovered. I said, along with every cent she funneled to Whitmore. My grandmother taught me early, never loan what you can't afford to lose. And Victoria? She was a bad investment from the start. I stepped away from the podium. The room erupted. My grandmother glided over, kissed my cheek. Well done, Liam, though you could have mentioned the merger with Vance Industries. Sophia's lawyers are already drafting the press release. Let them, I said, one revelation at a time. Sophia approached, handing me a tablet. Live feed from Rikers Island. She murmured, Victoria's having a moment. I looked at the screen. Victoria was in an orange jumpsuit, hair matted, face streaked with tears. She was screaming at a guard, get me a phone. I need to call my husband. Liam. The guard looked bored. Visitor hours are over. Hayes, and your husband's not your husband anymore. Judge signed the divorce papers an hour ago. You're officially a nobody. I watched her slide down the wall, sobbing. Sophia tapped the screen off. Satisfying? Necessary. I corrected. Where's Brad? Otisville, Sophia said. In the general population. I hear the inmates aren't fans of white-collar criminals who lose their wives' fortunes. He's already been in a fight. Broken nose. 2 black eyes. The guards miss it. Good. I said, make sure his commissary account stays empty. No stumps. No ramen. Let him starve for attention. My grandmother interrupted. Liam, the board's waiting. We have a merger finalized and a charity gala to attend. Sophia, you're escorting him tonight. Make sure he doesn't talk to any more reporters about his substance over spectacle philosophy. It's trite. Sophia rolled her eyes but nodded. Come on, Liam, we're burning daylight. We left the atrium, walking through the private underground garage to the Bentley. Sophia slid into the driver's seat. A surprise. I drive, she said. You're too busy being a figurehead. I didn't argue. She peeled out of the garage, merging into Geneva traffic, like she was born behind the wheel. You handled the press well, she said after a beat, but you're still thinking like a victim. She mistook my humility for weakness. Pathetic. Start thinking like a Carter. She never had a chance. You let her believe the lie. That's not weakness. That's strategy. I looked at her. Since when do you care about my mindset? I don't, she said, but my grandmother does. And if you're going to be half of the Carter-Vance merger, you need to stop reacting to Victoria Hayes. She's a footnote. Act like it. We pulled up to Carter Global's private airstrip. The Gulfstream was fueled and ready. Sophia killed the engine. Change of plans. Grandmother wants us in New York tonight. The gala's moved to the Met. She wants Victoria's disgrace broadcast against the backdrop of art and old money. Poetic. Fine, I said, but I want to stop at the library first. She raised an eyebrow. The New York Public Library? Why? To burn the last of my thrift store sweaters. I said, and to remind myself where I started, so I don't forget where I'm going. She actually smiled at that. A real one. Sentimental. I approve, but make it quick. Grandmother hates delays. The flight to New York was quiet. I slept. Sophia worked. When we landed at Teterboro, a different Bentley was waiting. Same model, different plates. Sophia drove again. We hit Manhattan traffic just as the sun set. Pull up to the library staff entrance. I said, I'll only be a minute. She nodded. I slipped out, duffel bag in hand. The library was closing. I bypassed security. They knew me, or rather, the old me, and headed to the rare manuscripts division. The drawer was still unlocked. I pulled out the remaining sweaters, the worn-out sneakers, the cheap wristwatch, piled them on the floor, pulled out a lighter. A security guard rounded the corner. Mr. Carter? Everything okay? Fine. Marcus. I said, just cleaning house. He nodded, recognizing the name from the news. Heard about your wife. Sorry, man. Don't be, I said, lighting the pile. The synthetic fibers melted, smelling like burnt plastic. She's not my problem anymore. I watched the flames for a minute, then walked out. Sophia was leaning against the car, smoking a thin cigarette. Took you long enough, she said. Grandmother's already at the Met. She's not pleased. Let's go, I said, tossing the duffel bag into the trunk. Time to show New York who owns the night. She stubbed out the cigarette, sliding into the driver's seat. You know, Liam, for a guy who just destroyed his wife and her ex, you're remarkably calm. Calm is a byproduct of winning. I said, and Sophia, this isn't winning. It's just the end of losing. She didn't respond. Just hit the gas, weaving through traffic toward the Met. The gala was in full swing by the time we arrived. Paparazzi flashbulbs blinded me as I stepped onto the red carpet. Sophia looped her arm through mine, a practiced smile on her face. Inside, the room was a sea of tuxedos and diamonds. My grandmother held court near the dais, a glass of champagne in hand. She spotted us, nodded once. I guided Sophia through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. No one mentioned Victoria. No one dared. Halfway through the night, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Liam, please, I'm pregnant. It's yours. Don't let me raise our child in jail. I showed it to Sophia. She didn't even blink. Brad's and Jen Pop. He's been bragging about knocking her up to anyone who'll listen. DNA tests will clear you, but even if it were yours, you'd still walk away. You're a Carter. We don't claim mistakes. I deleted the text, blocked the number. Tell grandmother I'm ready for the toast. Sophia squeezed my arm. Remember, substance over spectacle. But tonight, let the spectacle be yours. I walked to the dais, tapped the mic. The room quieted. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to propose a toast. To new beginnings. To legacies built, not borrowed. And to the end of those who mistake kindness for a weakness to exploit. Glasses clinked. I drank. Across the room, a TV screen flashed with breaking news. Victoria Hayes found guilty on all counts. Sentenced to 25 years. I didn't react. Just set my glass down. Turned to Sophia and offered my hand. Dance with me. I said. She did, as we swayed to the string quartet. I caught my grandmother's eye. She raised her glass in a silent salute. The message was clear. Well done. But the game never ends. I pulled Sophia closer. What's next? The world. She murmured, one merger at a time, starting with making sure Victoria Hayes is forgotten by morning. And Brad? He'll be someone's wife by Christmas. Sophia said, dry as bone, metaphorically speaking. I laughed, a real laugh, the first in years. The music swelled. The crowd blurred. For the first time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I was looking ahead, and ahead looked very, very good. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Carter Global stock soars 12% on leadership announcement. I silenced it. The dance continued. The night was young. And Victoria Hayes? She was already yesterday's news. I woke up alone in the penthouse on Fifth Avenue. Sophia was gone, left a note on the nightstand in her sharp. Slanting script. Grandmother wants Whitmore's offshore accounts cleaned out by noon. Don't screw up the timeline. Coffee's in the kitchen. Try not to wear the Tom Ford to the courthouse today. You'll scare the judge. I smirked, downed the cold brew, and checked my phone. 17 missed calls from a blocked number. Victoria. Again, I unblocked her just long enough to see the latest voicemail transcript. Liam, please. I'm being transferred to Albion Correctional today. They're taking my jewelry, my shoes, everything. You have to stop this. I'm your wife. I blocked her again. Wife, past tense. The divorce decree was filed, stamped, and already being used as toilet paper in a Rikers Island holding cell, if the guard were feeling generous. My legal team was waiting downstairs. Gabriella Rossi, my grandmother's pit bull, handed me a folder before I even sat down in the town car. Ms. Hayes' disbarment hearing is at 10. We've got the forensic audit from her firm. She diverted client funds to Brad's legal defense. That's automatic revocation in New York. The Character and Fitness Committee won't even let her plead. Make sure the press is there. I said, I want her walk of shame photograph from every angle. Gabriella nodded. Already arranged. Page 6. New York Post. Even that podcast, White Collar Fraud. They're all outside the courthouse. The ride to 60. Center Street was quiet except for Gabriella rattling off updates. Brad Whitmore's cellmate is a guy named Tiny, former enforcer for the Gambino family. He's not happy about Brad's loud mouth. We've been told Brad's lost 2 teeth and owes 3 packs of cigarettes. Good. I said, increase the commissary ban. No more toothpaste. No stamps. Let him figure out how to trade his way out of a paper cut. We pulled up to the courthouse. Cameras flashed. Victoria was already inside, but her lawyer, a nervous public defender named Klein, was getting grilled by reporters. Mr. Klein, is it true Ms. Hayes used firm funds to pay for Brad Whitmore's steak dinners? Klein mumbled something about client confidentiality. I walked past him, ignoring the shouts of Mr. Carter, any comment on your ex-wife's downfall? Inside, the hearing room was packed. Victoria sat at the defendant's table, wearing a cheap navy pantsuit that didn't fit. Her hair was greasy, her nails bitten raw. She looked up as I entered, her eyes widening. Liam, you came. I didn't respond, just took a seat behind Gabriella. The judge, Honorable Patricia Geller, called the session to order. Ms. Hayes, the committee has reviewed the evidence of misappropriation, perjury, and obstruction. Do you have anything to say before we move to revoke your license? Victoria Stuth, trembling. Your Honor, I was manipulated. Brad Whitmore coerced me. And my husband, he set me up. He's the real criminal. He's the one who leaked the emails. He's Carter Global. He could have stopped this. Gabriella stood. Objection. Your Honor, Mr. Carter's identity is irrelevant to Ms. Hayes' misconduct. The evidence shows she acted independently, motivated by a desire to secure a partnership at a firm named after her ex-husband, a firm she now sues for wrongful termination. Judge Geller sighed. Ms. Hayes, your attempts to shift blame are noted and unpersuasive. Based on the audit, the falsified documents in the hit-and-run case, and your own emails to Mr. Whitmore discussing asset concealment, this committee hereby revokes your license to practice law in the state of New York, effective immediately. Victoria screamed, actually screamed. No, you can't do this. Liam, tell them, I'm your wife. You love me. 2 court officers moved in. She fought them, scratching one across the face. Get off me. I'll sue you all. I'll sue Carter Global. They dragged her out. Her shoe fell off. A reporter snapped a photo. That'd be tomorrow's front page. Fallen lawyer loses shoe and everything else. As they hauled her past me, she locked eyes. I'm pregnant. Liam, I swear on my life, it's yours. You can't let our child grow up in prison. I leaned closer, keeping my voice low. It's Brad's. He bragged about it to his cellmate. DNA test comes back next week. Even if it were mine, I'd still sign away my rights. You're not fit to raise a goldfish. Victoria. Her face crumpled. They pulled her away. I stood, adjusted my cufflinks, and walked out. Gabriella followed. Cold, she remarked, but effective. The Bar Association will circulate this as a cautionary tale for decades. Good, I said. Let it be a lesson. Don't marry a Carter and expect to keep your hands clean. Back in the car. Sophia called. Heard the hearing. Well done. Grandmother's pleased. Now, we got a problem. Victoria's mother is talking to Good Morning America. Says you abandoned Victoria when she needed you most. I rolled my eyes. Let her talk. We got the recordings of Victoria transferring our savings to Brad. We got the emails where she called me a charity case. Public sympathy won't survive that. Still, Sophia said, Grandmother wants a counter-narrative. I've scheduled you for an interview with Norah O'Donnell on CBS. Tomorrow night. Tell your side. Keep it simple. You were deceived. You corrected the record. You're moving forward. Fine, I said, but tell Norah I won't cry on camera. Carters don't do tears. I'll inform her, Sophia said dryly. Also, Victoria is being transferred to Albion today. Maximum security. No visitors. No mail. No phone calls. She'll be a ghost by Monday. Make sure her mother gets the message. I said, no, say Victoria, GoFundMe pages. I'll have it shut down for fraud within an hour. Already done, Sophia said. You're learning. Now, get to the office. We're finalizing the Vance merger docs. And Liam? Buy a new suit. That Tom Ford's got courthouse dust on it. I hung up. The car pulled up to Carter Global HQ. Reporters were camped outside, but the building's private entrance swallowed me whole. Upstairs, Sophia was waiting in the conference room, surrounded by lawyers. She didn't look up. Sit. Sign page 12. The clause about Whitmore seized assets needs your initials. I signed. How's Brad adjusting to Gen Pop? She glanced up, a hint of a smile. Tiny made him his bitch. Literally, Brad's doing laundry, cleaning toilets, and trading sexual favors for protection. Tiny's charging him 5 packs of cigarettes a week. Since Brad's commissary is frozen, he's racking up debt. By next month, Tiny might break his legs. Or worse. Worse. I said, make sure the guards look the other way. They already are, Sophia said. Grandmother donated a new weight room to Otisville last year. The warden owes us. I leaned back. And Victoria? What's her day look like? Processing. Strip search. Uniform issue. Assigned to the laundry detail. She'll be washing sheets for the next 6 months. If she's lucky, she won't get shanked in the shower. Unlucky, I corrected. She'll get shanked, metaphorically. Her reputation's already dead. The physical part's just a formality. Sophia finally looked at me, her gaze assessing. You know, for a man who was humiliated 3 months ago, you're remarkably detached. I'm not detached. I said, I'm done. There's a difference. Detached means I still care enough to feel nothing. Done means she's not even a blip on my radar. She nodded, satisfied. Good answer. Now, let's talk about the gala next week. Grandmother wants to announce the Vance Carter Foundation. You'll need a date. Not me this time. It's personal. Pick someone respectable. No librarians. I'll find someone. I said, someone who doesn't steal from the joint account. Or someone who isn't currently incarcerated. Sophia added, small bar, but manageable. The rest of the day was a blur of signatures, meetings, and avoiding Victoria's mother's increasingly unhinged voicemails. By evening, I was back in the penthouse. Alone, I poured a scotch, turned on the news. There she was, Victoria, shackled, being loaded into a transport van. The anchor's voice was clinical. Former attorney Victoria Hayes begins her 25-year sentence today. Her ex-husband, billionaire Liam Carter, declined to comment. I sipped the scotch. It burned, but in a good way, a cleansing way. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Liam, it's Jess, Victoria's paralegal. I found something in her desk. Emails. Proof she was planning to drug you and take the penthouse. Thought you should know. G. I stared at the text. Drug me? Take the penthouse? The audacity. I replied, bring them to my office tomorrow. 9 a.m. Come alone. Tell no one. Jess responded instantly. Yes. Sir, thank you. She was always jealous. Said you were too smart to be a librarian. Too smart. Victoria's fatal flaw. She saw intelligence as a threat, not an asset. I finished the scotch, set the glass down, walked to the window. Manhattan glittered below. Somewhere in that grid, Victoria was starting her first night in a concrete cell. Somewhere, Brad was folding Tiny's underwear. And somewhere, Jess was realizing she'd picked the right side. My phone buzzed again. Sophia, Nora O'Donnell confirmed for tomorrow, 7 p.m., where the Brioni. And Liam? Don't mention the shanking. Grandmother thinks it's vulgar. I smiled. Vulgar. Like Victoria's entire existence. I typed back, no shanking. Just facts. And Sophia? Thanks. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The silence was enough. The game wasn't just won. It was over. Victoria was a ghost. Brad was a joke. And I was just getting started. I turned off the TV. The penthouse was quiet. Too quiet? No. It was peaceful. I slept without setting an alarm. For the first time in years. I didn't dream of Victoria's lies. I dreamed of balance sheets, mergers, and a future where the only person I had to trust was myself. And maybe, just maybe, a sharp-tongued Harvard lawyer who didn't suffer fools. Morning came. I dressed in the Brioni. Jess arrived at 9:01, clutching a manila envelope. She looked terrified. Mr. Carter, the emails, they're bad. I took the envelope. Wait outside. I opened it. Printouts. Dozens of them. Victoria outlining a plan to slip Ambien into my coffee, change the locks on the penthouse, and transfer the deed to Brad. Dated 3 weeks before the hit-and-run setup. Premeditated. Cold-blooded. I walked to the door. Handed Jess a check. For your silence. And your honesty. Don't deposit this until after the Nora O'Donnell interview. If Victoria's lawyers come sniffing. You know nothing. She nodded, eyes wide. Thank you. Mr. Carter. I am sorry. I should have come forward sooner. Sooner would have been better. I said, but now works. I closed the door. Called my grandmother. Found more evidence. Victoria planned to drug me. Get the DA to add attempted murder. Let's make it 40 years. My grandmother chuckled. Now you're thinking like a Carter. I'll have the indictment ready by noon. Sleep well. Liam, you've earned it. I hung up, checked the time. 7 p.m. Time for the interview. I walked out, nodding to the driver. CBS Studios. Step on it. The ride was short. Inside the green room, Nora O'Donnell greeted me with a professional smile. Mr. Carter, ready? Ready, I said. The red light on the camera glowed. Nora asked the first question. Why now? Why reveal your identity after 3 years? I looked into the lens. Because silence enabled a criminal. Because my wife chose a felon over her spouse. And because the truth, unlike Victoria Hayes, doesn't need a law degree to stand up in court. Nora nodded. The interview continued. I stuck to the script. No shanking. No goose. Just facts. When it ended, she shook my hand. Strong performance. Mr. Carter. Very controlled. Controlled is how we stay on top. I said, back in the car. Sophia texted. Watch the interview. Controlled. Boring. But effective. Grandmother's adding another 0 to your bonus. Don't spend it all on sweaters. I smiled. Bonus. Sweaters. Ghosts. None of it mattered. Victoria was gone. Brad was broken. And I was exactly where I needed to be. On top, unapologetic, and very, very done. I woke up on the morning of the wedding to the sound of my grandmother barking orders, interphone, in the suite next door. No, Mother, the roses must be Peony Blanc, not Ivory Dream. There's a difference. Liam's bride deserves precision, not approximations. Sophia was already up, sitting by the window with a tablet, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than Victoria's entire prison commissary fund for the next decade. She didn't look up. You're staring. Stop it. It's unbecoming of a CEO. Just admiring the view. I said, pouring a black coffee. Also, your grandmother called. She wants to know if we've accounted for atmospheric elegance. Sophia finally looked at me, one perfectly arched eyebrow raised. Atmospheric elegance? That's just code for don't let the help trip over the swag. Relax. Liam, today isn't about Victoria Hayes. It's about the Carter-Vance merger looking flawless on every network. She was right. The ST, Regis was crawling with press, but they were kept behind velvet ropes. Inside, it was a fortress of white flowers and old money. My best man, Harrison from the board, handed me a folded note as I adjusted my tie. Came for you an hour ago. No return address. I opened it. Victoria's handwriting. Shaky and uneven. Liam, I saw the news. You're marrying that ice queen Sophia? After everything we had? I'm pregnant. I swear it's yours. Brad's dead, thank God. Please, just put money in my commissary. I'll disappear after I have the baby. Don't make our child grow up in that hellhole. I showed it to Sophia. She scanned it, then tossed it into the lit fireplace without a word. Brad's not dead. He's in protective custody after Tiny tried to drown him in a toilet. And the DNA test came back yesterday. The baby is his. 98% probability. Also, hellhole? Albion is practically a country club compared to where she'd be if I'd handled her prosecution. You're ruthless. I noted. I am federal. She corrected. Besides, grandmother already instructed the warden to deny her all mail except from her public defender. That note was never supposed to reach you. Someone's getting fired. Before I could respond, Gabriella Rossi swept in, looking like a shark in a charcoal Prada suit. Gentlemen, ladies, we have a situation. Brad Whitmore's lawyer just filed a last-ditch motion to suppress the Carter file, the one proving he embezzled from the children's cancer wing of the Carter Charitable Trust. He claims you fabricated it while you were mentally unstable during your librarian phase. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Mentally unstable? That's his play? Tell Judge Geller I'll be happy to provide my psychiatric evaluation from Harvard Medical School. Summa cum laude. Or maybe she can compare it to Brad's third DUI arrest report. Already done, Gabriella said, smirking. Judge Geller denied the motion before I finished my croissant. She also increased Brad's bail revocation hearing to today, 3 hours before your ceremony. She figured you want the satisfaction of knowing he's going away forever before you say, I do. She's a woman of taste. Sophia murmured. The courthouse was a madhouse. Reporters screamed my name, but I ignored them, walking flanked by 2 security guards. Inside the courtroom, Brad looked like a ghost. He'd lost 40 pounds. His orange jumpsuit hung off him, and his left eye was swollen shut. He actually started crying when he saw me. Liam, buddy, look, I am sorry. Okay? About the car. About Victoria. About everything. Just tell them to drop the trust fund charges. I'll plead to the insider trading. I'll give back the money. Judge Geller banged her gavel. Mr. Whitmore, silence. Mr. Carter is not your buddy. He is the victim of your fraud and the husband of the woman you conspired to defraud. Regarding the Carter Charitable Trust embezzlement, the evidence is overwhelming. $4. $2 million diverted from pediatric oncology research to your personal offshore accounts. Bail is revoked. You are remanded to state custody pending trial. Given the severity, I'm recommending no less than 45 years in Attica. Do you have anything to say before sentencing? Brad turned purple. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You did this. You and that stuck-up bitch Sophia. You set me up. Victoria was right. You're a psycho. I hope your kids are born dead. The courtroom gasped. Sophia, standing beside me, Didn't even flinch. She leaned toward the judge. Your Honor, the people moved to enter Mr. Whitmore's outburst into the record as evidence of his character, and perhaps at a charge of threatening a minor. My niece is currently 3 months old in utero. Judge Geller nodded grimly. So noted, Mr. Whitmore, you've just ensured you'll die in a cell. Bailiffs, remove him. They dragged Brad out, his screams echoing. I'll see you in hell. Carter, Victoria too, will haunt you. As they hauled him past me, I leaned in, keeping my voice low so only he could hear. Hell's already got you, Brad. And Victoria? She's too busy scrubbing toilets to haunt anyone. Enjoy Attica. Try not to drop the soap. Oh, wait, you already did. For Tiny, he howled. The door slammed shut. Back at the ST. Regis. The mood was electric. News of Brad's meltdown and extended sentence was already breaking across every screen. My grandmother clinked a glass. Well played. Liam, now, go get married. And try not to look too smug during the vows. It's unbecoming. The ceremony was a blur of crystal chandeliers and whispered vows. When it was my turn, I looked into Sophia's eyes, sharp, intelligent, and utterly devoid of the desperation I'd seen in Victoria's. I once gave my trust to someone who saw my humility as a weakness to exploit. I said, my voice carrying in the silent room. She taught me that love without integrity is just a transaction. Today, I give my name to someone who sees me clearly, not as a savior, not as a victim, but as an equal. Sophia, you're not my reward. You're my partner in business, in legacy, and in life. Sophia's smile was small, but real. Liam, you're still insufferable, but you're my insufferable billionaire. I vow to keep your secrets, sharpen your strategies, and ensure Victoria Hayes remains a footnote in our history. Now, can we please eat? Grandmother's caviar won't eat itself. Laughter rippled through the room. We kissed. The deal was sealed. During the reception, my phone buzzed with a news alert. I clicked it. Page 6, exclusive. Victoria Hayes attempts suicide in Albion. Fails. Now on suicide watch in isolation. Source says she screamed your name. Liam, before being sedated. I showed the screen to Sophia. She sipped her champagne. Sloppy. If she wanted attention, she should have used a sharper razor. That was amateur hour. Shall I have the warden transfer her to a psych unit in Buffalo? Less chance of accidents. Let her rot in isolation. I said, it's what she chose when she picked Brad over her own future. Later, as we cut the cake, a 7-tiered monstrosity of vanilla bean and edible gold, my grandmother pulled me aside. Liam, the trustees are pleased. The stock is up 12% since this morning. Even Victoria's mother called, begging for money to pay Victoria's legal fees. I told her to sell her house. Good, I said. Did you tell her about the civil suit? Filing it Monday. Grandmother confirmed. Wrongful incarceration claim against Victoria for the hit-and-run setup. We'll seize what's left of her 401k. By Christmas, she won't own the shoes on her feet, assuming they let her wear shoes in isolation. The night wound down. Sophia and I retreated to the honeymoon suite. She kicked off her heels, sighing, well, that's over. Now, the real work begins. Grandmother wants the Vance Carter Foundation launched by Q1. And Liam? No more librarian jokes. You're a CEO. Act like it. I loosen my tie, watching the city lights. No more jokes. But I'll keep one sweater. For perspective. She rolled her eyes, walking to the window. Perspective. Right. Just don't wear it to the Met Gala. I have a reputation to maintain. I joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist. Below us, New York Post, alive, indifferent, and mine, somewhere uptown. Victoria was strapped to a bed in a freezing cell, regretting every choice. Somewhere upstate, Brad was counting cracks in a concrete wall, his empire ashes. And here was silence, strength, and a future built on truth, not lies. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. Probably a burner from one of the guards. Hayes stopped breathing for a minute. They revived her. She kept whispering. Tell Liam I'm sorry. Thought you should know. I deleted it. No reply needed. Sorry wasn't a currency I accepted anymore. I turned to Sophia. Ready for tomorrow? She leaned into me, her voice soft but firm. Always. Though if you suggest we elope to a library, I'm divorcing you before the ink dries. I laughed, pulling her closer. Deal. But for the record, the library's quiet. I miss the quiet. You'll get used to the noise. She murmured, or I'll buy you noise-canceling headphones. Now, shut up and kiss me. Carter, we've got a legacy to build. I did. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, the world was exactly as it should be. Victoria was a closed chapter, one written in regret, and ending in a padded cell. Sophia was the beginning of a new volume. And me? I was the author now. No more margins. No more footnotes. Just the main story. And it was perfect